Sometimes. Yeah. They told me don't make a promise you can't keep. Everybody live a little, everybody die. Yeah. I guess fuck it. That's life. What you gonna do? Man, I swear that's what I dream about. That's life. Maybe I will spend it all with you. Yeah. Well, that's life. What you gonna do? Everything is jazz and I'm stuck. That's life. Maybe I will spend it all with you. Yeah. Can I please get a standing ovation? 100 naked bitches in my dressing room waiting. We lost a lot of blood for this fucked up nation. That's life. What you gonna do?
I just wanted to give a special thanks, as you guys probably heard, the new introduction song. Big shout out to Jacob Sargent. He's a friend of mine that I actually met in Central Park a few years back, and he's an extremely talented DJ, and I'm so happy that I have gotten to know him and have talented friends like that I could hit up with an idea for a song, and then they could go remix something for me and give me something I can incorporate to make the podcast better. So big shout out to Jacob for that. I'm extremely happy and pleased with what he did for me. And thank you so much, Jacob, if you're listening. And I also want to give a shout out to all you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I know I haven't been super consistent, but I'm trying to get better at that. Trying to set some time aside every weekend to get around to making a podcast. I'm going to start prioritizing it more. But that being said, thank you for tuning in again and listening to what we got to talk about today. And today's topic, it's going to be about like personal doubt and self-doubt, because I think we all experience it in the world, and it could be overwhelming and depressing and debilitating. But we're just going to kind of openly talk about our experiences. Obviously today, Alison is with me again, because I know she has a lot of good insight into this topic and has dealt with her own share of it, just like we all have. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in and start talking about self-doubt and how to overcome it and where we're sitting with it. But without further ado, here's Alison.
Hi, you guys. Thank you, Jordan, again for having me. I love doing these podcasts. And yes, I know that we've been doing fairly decent at it, but I would like to be more consistent with it as well. And this topic actually I'll talk about that even within this realm, because obviously pushing outside of your boundaries and doing new things that you've never done before and that you're really unsure where they will go, that kind of ties in with this topic in itself. So self-doubt has been a huge factor in probably all of our lives for as long as I can remember. I think that everyone has a little bit of self-doubt somewhere in there. And I think it's kind of just whatever you choose to do with that. If you let it be debilitating to you, or you try to understand. I guess it kind of ties in with fear as well. But the self-doubting is fear-based, and so it can cripple you and just turn you inward and be like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. I'm not even going to try, because you're too scared of quote-unquote failure. Or you can understand that that feeling is never going to go away. I've heard of podcasts of other people that are extremely successful and have all of the things that I could ever imagine wanting, and they still say that to this day that they still have fear and have self-doubt, but the difference is they don't let it stop them. And so, yeah, do you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I understand what you're saying about, I think everybody experiences it. And you saying all that, it really had me thinking into the first time I potentially ever experienced self-doubt, and a thought keeps crossing my mind where I feel as young children, we might not even know what self-doubt is. I don't think we doubt ourselves. I think doubt is implanted into us through parents, through siblings, through teachers telling you can't do something, or you better do this, or that's never going to happen. You're almost limited before you're able to really think for yourself, and then by the time you are thinking for yourself, it's so ingrained in you that everything you doubt everything. You doubt yourself, you doubt the people around you. Everything is very limiting, fear-based beliefs, and we kind of spend our whole lives operating, trying to get out of that narrative and think past it, because they say the most formative years are between 0 and 7. So I think all of that programming that gets put into us when we're young children is very hard to overcome, and that's why as adults, even no matter how successful you are or how much you keep achieving, it still is something that always creeps in and is there, because it's just so wired into our subconscious that it's hard to overcome. So that leads me to a question I have for you. I was wondering the first time that you remember experiencing self-doubt, whether that be as, I don't know, a child, a teenager, somewhere along those lines, something you really wanted to do that you limited yourself or felt limited by based on your expectations for the world.
Yeah, I'm super, super happy that you said that, because I wanted to ask you that as a question, because I myself think the exact same thing, that it is impressed on us, that we are not born questioning our abilities and doing things. I think that as a kid, you'll ask any kid and they're like, I want to be, they think of all these crazy things that, I mean, they're not crazy, but they think of these big, elaborate, goals and ideas that they want to do. And usually it's people around them. Yeah. Like teachers, adults, parents, and everything that gives that, like, be real though. Like they don't want you to get your heart broken or whatever. And so and so you start to doubt yourself and think like, oh, that's not possible. But I remember as a child, I always wanted to be an entertainer of some sort. I loved, I wrote songs. I would sing, stupid songs, but I would write songs, and I wanted to be either a singer or an actress. And I don't remember exactly who. I'm sure my mom or, people that I told that to. I could only imagine, because maybe I wanted to be those things for, I don't know what reason. I just thought that would be fun, and that's what I wanted to do. But definitely as I got older, I was just like, yeah, this is never going to happen. Like, just from other people telling me, like, oh, that's their life. That's not our life. Like, we're different from them. Like, that's not something that is possible for us. And obviously I grew up in a small town, and so there was, I don't want to say small-minded people, but people didn't have those kinds of dreams. And so I think I just was like, okay, well, like, where is the line? Like, what are the things that I am allowed or am capable of doing? And okay, what box am I in that I'm allowed to do? Like, am I okay? So I can work for this state, or I can, have the job that it's like, where is that invisible line that's like telling me which things are possible and which are not? But I do know that after that, there was a lot. And then you start to think of the reasons of why. And so then I'm thinking, like, I'm not talented enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not funny enough. I don't have a good enough voice. I don't have a good enough personality, And so then you really start to, self-loathe, basically, because you're like, well, you see these other people that are able to do it. So you're like, what makes me different from them? Okay, so I must not be as good as them. And that's really sad as a child to think that way and to not feel like you're able to do things. But there was still something in me that kind of that felt like I could go against that. And I was like, I wholeheartedly believe that you can, if you want to badly enough and you put in the work and effort and try to find the right people and try to find the right information, that you can do and be and have whatever you want. But that was not how I was raised. So I think that seeing the people around me not having anything close to what I wanted gave me a lot of self-doubt too, because I was like, okay, well, if all the closest people around me don't have the things that I want, who am I supposed to ask how to get them?
Yes, I understand where you're coming from, and that, like, even you saying that, my higher self agrees with you, but, like, my matrix or thinking self is like, no, that doesn't matter because of your genetics, but, like, ultimately, like, genetics are whatever the chemistry of the makeup of your past ancestors, but there's also a lot of, like, lifestyle that goes into it, because, like, ultimately, like I said, like, my conscious self that's here in this moment or in this realm is like everything you said. I'm like, no, I still don't think that's the case, but I disagree. Like, my higher self disagrees with it for the fact of, I think that all of it is irrelevant if there's a lot of circumstances that have to unfold for it to work. Like, if you want to be entertainer and nobody in your family ever sang, doesn't know what to do, you live in East Bumfuck, anywhere USA, and nobody's exposed to that, you could want that all day, and, like, unfortunately, because of the circumstances and you not knowing any better, or, like, your parents not knowing how to give you that, it's probably never going to happen. But let's just say your parents are on a certain level where they're like, yeah, we've never been, but we're going to do everything possible in our power to get this for you, and you're like, as long as you put the time in, it's capable. And then obviously there's some, like, what we would consider luck involved in it, or chance, but if you're gonna work hard and put the time in, I'm sure it'll take you somewhere, or it'll take you at least to the next venture of your journey where you discover something that maybe intrigues you more or you're better at. But in this world, doubt is so prevalent that I don't think very many people ever get to really experience that truly. Me, for example, some of the first things that come from self-doubt were, as a child, I always wanted to play football. Always. I begged my parents to play on the town team. All my friends in school played. It sounded like so much fun. I loved watching football. I loved playing football video games. And I just wanted to play football. I mean, probably at that age, I did have some dream of being a professional football player, but based on the limiting beliefs placed upon me from the religion I was raised in, I don't even think that I would allow myself to recognize it at that age. I just wanted to play football, like, because it was fun. But I ultimately, thinking back now as a child, I probably did have bigger dreams and aspirations than just playing football, like, because I studied the game and players and knew their backstories and how they came about. So even at a young age, I had a decent idea of how these players made it to the pros. So I think even at that age, I kind of knew, like, I'm not just going to play one season and quit. Or if I was to do that, it's because I didn't like it, but I would never know if I didn't try. But anyway, none of that was able to happen based on how I was raised. And I'd beg and plead my parents from third grade up until senior year of high school. I think I asked them if I could play football pretty much every single year, knowing the answer was going to be no, because that was against the rules of our religion, and you're not allowed to play team sports because of potential bad association. And so I never played. Then another limiting belief that followed that is I always wanted to be a lawyer. And I think I wanted to be a lawyer because at that age I knew I couldn't play football, but all of the agents for football players are lawyers, and I knew lawyers got paid well, and they could be around the game of football, and they were going to be, like, they're kind of in charge of the players in a sense, and in charge of their contracts, in charge of their money, and just still around the game, involved in it, wheeling and dealing. And, like, as a kid, that sounded like another great idea, which wouldn't be as frowned upon in the eyes of being a Jehovah's Witness. But there is a lot of post-secular education that comes along with being a lawyer. And the way that I was raised, my father went to college and graduated college. This was back in, like, the 70s, and paid for himself to go to school, which kudos to him. But he would always tell me, if you want to go to college, you have to pay for college on your own, like I did. and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So if you want to go to college, you got to figure out a way how to go to college. And once again, being a kid with those limiting beliefs placed on me, I was like, this is a lot of effort. So nobody was like holding my hand and telling me like, this is your next step, this is your next step, this is your next step. So obviously I took the easy path and was encouraged to learn a trade. So I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to learn this trade, and like, so long to my dreams, they're just not going to happen. And so I continued on, but I believe those are probably the first couple examples if I have like that come to mind of like self-doubt that I was never really able to even allowed or guided to pursue my dreams. It was just like that wasn't an option. My option was you could go door knocking full time in the religion, and that's going to make everybody super happy, which I never from at any point was that my dream. That sounded more like a nightmare to me to have to do that constantly. But so at least I didn't end up living my nightmare. But that being said, I don't like what were some of the examples that like I know you mentioned about being an entertainer, but what else do you like comes to mind about that?
Some other things I think that I have stopped myself from self-doubt would probably be, oh gosh, I don't know. I guess later on, like wanting to start my own businesses, or wanting to learn about investing, wanting to learn about real estate and all of these things. And I think that there's a lot of self-doubt just because even like as a kid, it's like I don't necessarily have as many people around me that I can talk to and ask about it. And because of the fact that I've never done it before, which there's actually a quote that is like, just because you haven't done something before or something, it like doesn't mean that you won't be able to or that you can't. But I guess it's just that sometimes it's hard for people to believe in things and have faith, and I do my best to, that they cannot physically see or hear or smell or taste or touch. Like everything right here, they're like, if you tell someone, like a lot of the times when I would come up with business ideas and this and that, I would come to my mom, and I would, or other people I'm sure too, but I would go to them and it would be my mistake of telling them my ideas too soon and then getting their reaction. And if it wasn't like, yes, you can do this, like totally go for it, then I would really start to second guess myself. And I'm like, is this a stupid idea? Like, I thought this was a great idea. I thought this was awesome. I thought I had this, but the way that they reacted in their face and their, expressions and stuff didn't seem that way. And so it would make me start to deprecate, which isn't necessarily the right thing to do, because if you have an idea, I think just go for it. Just really go for it. I think that that's one thing that I've learned, is to make sure not to speak too soon. Is like really just trust yourself and kind of go for it. And if it doesn't work, who cares? Like then it doesn't work and go to something else. But I think that is literally like one of the main reasons why I fell in love with you in the first place, was because you were one of the first people that when we hung out and I started telling you all these dreams and goals that I had, you did not look at me funny. You did not look at me sideways. You literally were like, this is a great idea. How are we going to do this? How are you going to do this? I'll help you. We were great friends at the time. And so we were part of each other's lives. And so it was something, and literally my eyes lit up. I was like, oh my God, you were genuine too. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, like, okay, you can, it was like you were interested. You thought I had good ideas. It made me feel seen. It made me feel heard. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, like there are other people that they do believe in the future. Like they do believe in things that are not in this physical reality, because that's how I think. And meeting those people are pretty rare, but I'm very glad that.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And that's one thing that is interesting, like you saying that, because I do recognize that about myself, is I'm usually never one to doubt anybody's dreams or aspirations at all. I'm usually one to encourage them or support them by whatever I can do to help somebody, whether that be they start a business and I buy a shirt from them, or I recommend them on Facebook, or I like try to support them in whatever way that I possibly can. And if like I get to talking with them, like we'll ask like maybe a little bit challenging questions, like the hard questions, like what's your plan of doing this? Like I understand you want to do that, and I'm not doubting you that you can't, but you need like a plan of action to do this, and like what's your knowledge base on the subject, or where did you learn that? Just to encourage them and see where they're at with it. And it's very, very easy for me to support somebody else's dreams. Myself, I have a very practical way of looking at things, and I need it to make sense to me, good or bad or indifferent. If it doesn't necessarily make sense to me, and if what it is perceivably going to require what I think is going to be a lot of effort, I typically shy away from things. Where I'll be like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. Like, that's probably why I haven't been consistent with these podcasts, to be honest with you, is because not that it requires a tremendous amount of work. It takes a couple minutes for setup, a couple minutes to get everything in order, to some sound checks and all that, and a couple minutes to upload and however long we do the podcast, but it's still more effort at times than I want to put in, and that's been a hard thing for me to want to overcome. And I'm just using podcasting as an example because that's how I'm connecting through this medium with you guys, but I'll do that with a lot of other things in my life where I will put off starting a business. I mean, I do give myself a pat on the back when I started my personal training business, and shout out to everybody that was supportive of that. I'm truly grateful for that, and definitely it was a big learning adventure into sales and training, and I was able to help some people and learned a ton, and I'm so happy I did that, and I could always fall back on it. Definitely training's in my wheelhouse, but it ultimately seemed like it wasn't the path for me, so I ventured off that. But that was probably one of the first times I ever just kind of took a leap of faith and tried something like that and to see where it went. So for that, I give myself, like, I'm proud because it didn't work out maybe how I wanted to. I signed up for a coaching program. I was supposed to be making $20K a month or some bullshit. I don't know. That guy was on crack. But I tried it at least, and it didn't go where I necessarily wanted it to, but all I gained was a ton of experience and a ton of confidence that, hey, look, you went for it. It didn't turn out how you wanted. And honestly, it might have turned out how I wanted if I put more time and attention into it. But the amount of time that I already put into it based on the cost metrics of trying to live in society, it kind of made it a little bit challenging where it was like, all right, well, it's do or die, and I need to be making somewhere around like $5,000 or $6,000 a month at least in order to live the life that I want to live, and this isn't cutting it. So I had to go back to my old bread and butter and do electrical, but it's still having that as a backup plan. Whatever I go attempt, I should know this, like my inner being knows this, and having to go through these things is ultimately just gives me more confidence and should give me more confidence into my next ventures. That is why I started a podcast, because I figured that's a good outlet to try to help other people and myself too through talking about subjects like this. So this is why I'm here ultimately, is to kind of tackle my self-doubt, prove to you guys that anything's possible while proving to myself that anything is possible.
Yes, I love that. Thank you. And what I was thinking is that it ties into your fitness training and whatnot, but I was thinking of myself as well, how, and I'm sure a lot of others, but a lot of the time with the self-doubt, it takes a lot for us to get something started, and so we're kind of nervous, we're not really sure how it's going to go, and so we kind of like jump in, we're like, all right, let's do this, kind of how you did with the fitness thing, and same thing I've done with other stuff, and I'll start it, and then maybe the feedback right away wasn't really what I wanted, and then you kind of you're at this point where you need to decide, like, do I go harder and do I really push through this, and in hopes that, because you just don't know, it's literally all on faith, like you have no idea what's going to happen, you can't tell the future, so it's like, do I go all in and try to make the best out of this, or like you said, you get in a point where we are in this reality, whatever this is, and then you're like, okay, I still have to play this game at the same time, and so the reality is that you need to pay your bills, so you're like, okay, well, this is the thing that's for sure, and so our self-doubt can kind of take us out of the things that we start, and because we're really unsure of where it's going to go. And I've done that a lot of times. I've started things and then kind of shied away from them because I'm hesitant. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I feel that like I'd be able to be successful at this, but it's like, do I really want to keep going? And then I don't think that it'll be a waste, but in my head, I'm just like, if it doesn't go where I want it to go, like, should I stop now and like veer off onto a different thing? And so I think that the right thing will stick, though, and even with this, that's why I said at the beginning, the self-doubt with me and this podcast, it does take a lot of pressure off me because it wasn't me like, I'm starting this podcast, and so that helps me a lot. For you, I commend you so much for getting all this stuff, for putting it together, for being like, hey, do you want a podcast? Like, literally all I have to do is just be like, okay, yeah, I'm down, and have these conversations with you that we have on the day-to-day basis. But there was still a little, obviously, self-doubt in doing something new like this. You know, we listen to podcasts all the time, and I hear these people and I look up to them a lot, and I really love their conversations, and I do have self-doubt, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to sound that good. Like, even when I get off the podcast, I'm like asking Jordan, I'm like, did I sound stupid? You know, and so I have these self-doubting things, but it does get easier. Like, the more you do them, and it's the same thing with my YouTube channel. I started my YouTube channel about a year ago, and I haven't been as consistent as I've wanted to be, but I am starting to make videos again, and it just feels differently. It doesn't feel as scary. I don't doubt myself as much. I feel better about what I'm doing, and same thing with these podcasts. We've only done a few, but I do feel more comfortable in them, and so I think that the right things will click, and maybe not be, you know, crazy right out of the bat, but because you enjoy it so much and you like doing it, and you're not worried about the outcome of it, you just love enjoying the process of it. That's how I feel with my YouTube too. It's like, yes, obviously I want to, you know, make it huge and have all these people watch my videos, but at the same time, I just enjoy making them. I just really enjoy the process of doing it. And same things with these podcasts. I appreciate all of you that are listening so much, but it is really just enjoyable for me to sit down with the love of my life and get to talk about these topics that we talk about all the time. And I know, both of us know, that so many of you listening and so many other people in the world probably think the same or have the same feelings or thoughts, or, you know, and so it's nice to have a community to hear other people talking. And they're like, oh my God, I felt like that too. You know, I just want to let people know, like, even though we are doing this, I can say that for myself, at least, that I have had self-doubt, but just really pushing past that, and how it ties in with fear. Like, the easiest way to get over your fears is to put yourself right up in front of them and literally push past them. And that's how it's been for me, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the intentions of this podcast, I know we talked about doing a podcast together for a long time. I talked about doing it with my other friends who I plan on having on this podcast at some point, but I realized it was getting to a point of like, now I'm just saying it to say it. Like, just go do the thing. And to bring this like full circle, like the whole title of the podcast, my introduction song, it's not in the introduction song, but another song by Mac Miller is one of the lines in it is, I always remind myself, sometimes I'll even remind other people when they're about to do something that's different or challenging or scary, is you got to jump in to swim. So in the process of me doing that, and like that's how I try to, when I'm processing things that I really want to do, I just try to remind myself of that, is like, this is scary. You might not like the way it feels at first, but if you want to, like, you got to jump in to swim. If you're going to sit on the shore, you're never going to learn how to swim. You got to get in there and do the thing. So, like, that's always been my intentions with this podcast. If you've seen, you listen to a couple ones without introduction songs. Now I got an intro song. I'm sure as this progresses, give it another 3 podcasts, give it another 6 podcasts. The quality is going to be different. It's ultimately just going to be better. But the only way for that to happen is by me doing it, experimenting, seeing what works. And so that's what I'm here. That's what I'm doing. And like, thank you guys all for listening and supporting, because the support of your friends and family is massive for any undertaking. And that's what I realized in my other ventures, whether that was even electrical. It's like word of mouth is the best form of advertising. It's people being like, hey, check this out, or go to this person. That's how you're going to get the majority of people you actually have met in real life that are recommending you or looking out for you, because they have that tangible, valid connection. They know you, they like you, they trust you. So thank you guys all. And I wanted to go rewind a little bit with some of the stuff that you said. And I was thinking about your YouTube channel, because your YouTube channel has been fairly successful for being a new channel. You had it monetized, I want to say, in under 3 or 4 months. You got up to like 8,000 followers in a matter of 6 months, I want to say, and that's when your consistency even fell off, because you started off strong and hot out of the gates. So that like just leads me to ask the questions of like, what type of expectations do you set on yourself where you allow the doubt to creep in?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of the time it comes from comparison, which my higher self knows that comparison is the killer of everything. Do not compare yourself. It's absolutely useless. But I'm human, and I get caught up in that sometimes, and I see other people's profiles and where I want to be, and I just view it as that it's not that it's so far away, but I do have really high expectations of myself for absolutely for no reason, really. It's like, okay, I want, however many million subscribers. It's like, okay, that's possible. Like, that's literally possible. But you're seeing you have this many, and then you're looking at that number, and you're like, okay, you're obviously not going to get there tomorrow. So, like, I throw in the towel, and that's not fair. But I'll, be watching when I first started my videos, and I would be watching them, and it was just, I get caught up in the perfectionism of things, which is also not good to do. But I'm like, this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. Like, everything has to be perfect before I do it, basically. And kind of like how you were just saying, you're like, this podcast is going to get better. I'm going to have more equipment and this and that with it, but just start. And I did really good. I started, and then I had that self-doubt come in, and I just was like, I'd have, probably just because it was steadily growing, like the views on videos, and then I would see them drop off or be like less than the video before, and I'm like, oh, people are not interested. Like, that's my biggest culprit in my head. It's like, people don't care. Literally, I'm like, I have been on social media, for the most part, work and promoting my work and marketing myself for years, and still to this day, I struggle with, people don't care, Allison. Like, people aren't listening. And even though they're showing me that they do, people message me, people tell me in person, people tell me on the phone, people, DM me, like, they ask me for videos, they ask me about things that I have spoken up about, they respond when I post things, and they're very much showing me that they care and that they're listening. And for whatever reason, I have this voice in my head that's just like, nobody cares. Like, why are you talking? Like, nobody is paying attention to what you have to say. Like, why are you so special? Like, who thinks that they should listen to you or take advice from you? And so then I guess I do it to myself. I really do, because I'll have these bursts of motivation. And then I think that, I can do it, and I am. And then usually it's when I start looking at other people's stuff, and then I'm just like, oh, I'm not as good as, like, my videos don't look as good as theirs. Like, they have better equipment, or they look richer, or they look like, where their videos look better, or their editing is better. And it's just,
comparison's a bitch.
Oh, it's killer. It's absolutely killer. And it's crazy because I can stay away from it for a little bit, that's the thing. If I'm just doing my thing, then it's like no problem. Like, your life is pretty good. And then until you get online, then you see it's shown in your face all the things that you don't have, all the things that you don't look like. And then it just is like, oh, wow. Then you start to look at your life and the lack perspective. But it's just like you said, you're like, your YouTube channel was doing great. Like, it is, you're looking at it from the perspective, and it was growing, and it is. Yeah, it is. And people are, are watching and are listening, and I'm super grateful for that. And I don't want to take that for granted. And so I'm really happy that I have a different perspective on it. And that was one of my excuses too. I was like, the other house that we lived in, I didn't like the look of it, and I was like, well, I'll start doing it and be consistent when we get into a new place. And then we got into a new place, and then it's like, okay,
Crickets.
You're in the new place, like, we make excuses. I'm like, when this happens, I'll do it. When this happens, I'll do it. And so it's like, once you start taking those things away, it's like, what's your excuse now? Literally, the only reason you're not doing it is because of you. It's not because of the house. It's not because of the this. It's not because of the this. It's because of you. So, and me realizing that, I'm like, oh yeah, it is just me not doing it. And being called out too, when people, shout out to Sarah, my friend.
Well, I don't even think they call you out.
Yeah, she wasn't.
You just get asked about the stuff that you did, and people are like, why aren't you doing that anymore? You're great at it. And same for me, but like, that's kind of a wake-up call. It's a gentle, like, hey, get back on path.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you should be doing. Why aren't you doing it?
Yeah. I feel like it is the universe's way, speaking through other people to me. That's like, and it's gentle. It's not, like, hey, what are you doing? It's like, when are you going to come out with your next video? And then that is just like, oh my gosh, you care? Like, you want to see another video? Okay. So it makes me feel good. And so, yeah, I'm super excited. I'm releasing my video on Thursday.
Yeah.
So.
I'm happy to see that you recorded another video last week, and you're in the process of editing that.
We should talk about that topic next week.
What topic?
Or, like, alcohol and addiction and recovery. Or whenever, I mean.
We could definitely talk about that.
Yeah.
That reminds me, I'm glad you mentioned that, because, like, that reminds me of probably when the process, which I'm still working on the layers of the laziness or the self-doubt that I label as laziness. Still trying to get to the bottom of that on a personal level, but when I probably started being at least aware of it, that I just need to do it and without the fear of disappointment or failure, was from psychedelics, from doing them, and then realizing how rare and beautiful this life is for what it is, and you need to make the most of it. And you don't know how long it's going to be, and you need to do what you can for yourself and for others, more importantly, to help others. And being ever made so aware of that, the more journeys and ceremonies and experiences I had on it, it started stripping away layers where it's like, all right, you're not getting any younger. You got to do this. Like, you know it feels good doing it. You know it feels good helping other people. You know it feels good talking about maybe challenging subjects, whether that even just be on with phone calls to friends or just writing about them on a personal level in a journal, like, or having conversations with you about, like, stuff that we've gone through, or feelings that we had, or insecurities we have, or them just coming to light, even if it's not us talking about them, but through one of our actions in the relationship, of then being able to hold the space and open up about it. But I want to give a big shout out to even psychedelics for getting me to a place to be able to do any of that. And I'm like, they're always going to hold a place in my life, and I can't imagine a day where I won't ever be open to using them to help myself better and continue to strip away those layers, because I know that just as the layers could get stripped away, they could also get built back up. So just like brushing your teeth, not saying like this is not a one size fits all for everybody. Let me give that disclaimer. This is what has worked for me. But it's just like brushing your teeth. Like, just because you brush your teeth once in the morning doesn't mean you don't got to brush them again during the day. Like, they're going to get dirty again. So it's the same thing with the self-doubt. And like like I said, what works for me with it are psychedelic journeys. And they kind of just bring me back into myself and let me realize the beauty and the wonder and the rare experience that we get to have in this time. And so make the most of it. Do the things you want. Go the places you want. Live life how you want it, however that is. And even if it's not how you want it right now in the meantime, do little things, take little strides, and eventually you're going to look back and your life is going to be way different. You're going to be like, I never thought any of that was possible. Now look at me. Like, I could, like, for example, when I was 23, 24, that was probably some of the darkest shit I ever went through. And with a lot of just personal things, family stuff with an ex-girlfriend, and just all of that. That's very, it was a very dark place, and I was very scared, felt very limited to my environment. I thought I was going to be living in a 3-story apartment, or a 3-family house apartment in Meriden my whole life, working in the electrical union at a job I hated with other people that hated the job, just getting strung around by whoever was my boss, and like that was going to be my life, and then I just was going to die someday, and that was it. But not accepting, like, ultimately, as easy as that could have been, I could have just succumbed to it and been like, I guess this is my life. I'm going to live out the next 50 years this way. And like, okay, I for better insight, I made different choices, and ultimately that led me to psychedelics, that allowed me to process things and kind of approach the world in a different type of manner, and try things and go places. Not that I wasn't open to traveling before, but like realize I could do these things by myself. Like, yeah, sure, they're fun to do them with friends, but you don't need friends to do it. Like, this time works for you, go do the thing. Like, you're not going to regret it. And I don't regret any of the places I ever went by myself. They were amazing, beautiful experiences, and it just really, really helped me kind of overcome some doubt and fear, and like, which I'm still like, I'm not cured by any means. I still have my own doubts and limiting beliefs. I mean, for the fact I'm working for a company shows the doubt that to myself at least, the doubt that I demonstrate for myself, because if I wasn't operating in fear, I would probably have pulled the trigger and started my own, another one of my own companies. Probably it wouldn't have been personal training this time, but it would have been something involving electrical and solar, because I've been doing it for such a long time and do have a pretty good knowledge on how everything works and an understanding for it. And that being said, the realism of we're still participating in this reality, and we need to put food on the table and pay our bills. So that being said, that would be where I would be shifted towards, is working in that field exclusively for myself, hopefully employing others to help them come to this understanding that if they could either be happy working for me, or they could build to whatever they want to, and just create a completely supportive environment for that. So but like I said, just for the fact I'm still working for somebody else does show that I'm not 100% confident in myself, and I still feel doubt, and I'm working through that. And like, there are valid reasons for me working for another company now. Like, I am learning the business side of things on a tremendous level that my past experiences didn't provide. So, and like this is where I'm still easy on myself about it too, though. I'm not here to beat myself up and be like, "Oh, you're a failure. You didn't open your own business yet." Like I believe strongly that there is a certain flow of life, and you're supposed to follow the flow. Like when one door closes, another one opens, you kind of flow through that. Once I've recognized that flow, that is generally how my life has worked since. I haven't It might be stressful in the meantime, and I'm like, damn, I really like my last job. I was like, I really want to quit this place. I really want to quit this place. And it didn't happen necessarily on the time frame that I wanted it to, but another opportunity presented itself without me having to try or beg or plead. And they came to me. They told me what the situation was. They were super interested in me, and it opened up. So just for the fact I'm not working for myself and like that's where I want to be, doesn't mean that I'm like hard on myself for not being there yet. I'm like, no, there are good things in this. I'm like super grateful for where I'm at now because I do see all of the beauty that still lies in my situation and how much better and ready and able I'm going to be when the situation arises for me to be able to work for myself and employ others and provide a service for other people. But I know you also like you do work for yourself and you have goals and aspirations. Like how do you think that like yours kind of compare with like the self-doubt that you have with all of that?
I mean, with I do I think that where I'm at now, I had to overcome a lot of self-doubt in the position, like things along the way. So I am still proud of myself for the position that I am in now, but at the same time, now once you kind of how I was talking about when we push through our fears and then it becomes comfortable for us, I've gotten to the point where what I do now is no longer hard for me. And so, I mean, obviously I want to keep progressing and earning more money. But sometimes it's not really that challenging. And so it can get boring for me. And so, but it's safe because it's something that I'm comfortable with. And so then I'm playing this cycle where I do want to progress into other things, but because I've been in this realm for so long that sometimes it's hard for me because like I said earlier, I can't see the future, and so I get questionable about it, and I'm just like, I don't know, like I want to do this thing, but like I don't know what the outcome will be, and so then I just kind of retract and I'm like, okay, we're not going to do that, at least not yet, because I'm like too scared to start, which is horrible, and hopefully I can overcome that with other certain things. But I think that just starting, just doing kind of like how I was talking today before we were cleaning and organizing the house. I was like, oh, that was really easy because I literally I didn't plan to do that and I didn't think about it ahead of time. I literally just physically with my body started doing it. And if you start doing things before you can think your way out of them, the way you can get done is phenomenal. You know, if you have an idea in your head and you can think your way in, out, around, up, down, over something so many times, but if you just start doing it physically with your hands, like,
doesn't Mel Robbins have something where it's like the 5-second rule, where if
yes,
if you think about it for any longer than 5 seconds, you're not going to do it. So you
yep,
need to do something before you allow yourself to think about it for 5 seconds. Like you just do it.
Just do it. Literally, just start. Like, don't even because you'll catch up. Like, even, I mean, it's as small as going to the gym. If you like don't really feel like it, it's like just start getting dressed, get your water bottle ready, get your bag, and just start going. And like you in your head, even if you really didn't feel it going, like your body is doing it, so like your mind will catch up. Like it just does. I don't know why or how, but it just does. Like, but if you sat on the couch and you started debating, like, should I go, should I not go? You're probably going to talk yourself out of it. You're probably going to be like, come up with all these excuses for why you don't want to go. But if you just had that time where you sat there, you just got ready and got in your car, then you're like, oh shit, like I'm already on my way. So better like get used to this. Cause like we are what is the word? We acclimate. We do. And so it's like if you just start doing things that you might deem uncomfortable, then you like acclimate to it. And it's usually not as bad as you thought it was going to be. Like we did it today and I was like, oh wow, like that was really easy.
No, it was a great productive use of time cleaning a house and doing all the organizing we did. Like,
yeah, it felt
absolutely
really good.
have zero regrets for spending my time doing that. And yeah, it just takes decisive action, sometimes in the small things, sometimes without thoughts, if it's just a matter of like cleaning and organizing. Bigger things, like you should have a plan of action, but you shouldn't do it to the point of paralysis by analysis, where you're like, oh, I figured out everything I need and I want and how to do that, and now I can't do that because it seems really hard, which maybe that's kind of what happens to me, I feel, to an extent, with certain things, is I know all the steps I need to take. I know what I need to do it. I know X, Y, and Z how to get to and I'm like, wow, in order to get all that, I need to go I'll just use a business as an example, is like I probably should go get a Florida master electrical license. Oh man, that's going to take a lot of studying, and I need to do books. Then I need to write checks and submit paperwork and talk to Connecticut licensing and to talk to Florida. And then I'm going to need to study for probably 3 months on top of it, a couple hours a week, and then probably a couple hours a night up before the test. Then I got to go take the test, and then what happens if I fail? Like, okay, and then you got to go do it again and pay more people, and then it's like, oh man, and then that's just getting that. Then you got to go find the business, and then you got to pay the insurances, and then you got to have enough business if you want people to work for you, or you can pay the employees, and like what happens if that's not the case at first, and then you're just working by yourself and you're just scraping by, and then you're just scraping by and you're like, why am I doing this? But like all of that's ultimately my own like fear and limiting beliefs and like self-doubt. It's like I don't even know that's just like how my brain operates in that manner. And then it's like, no, you need to not do that right now. Like it seems like a lot, which working on overcoming that and just like not super focused on the outcome, just like work the process and like just tackle the problems as they come. Like that's
one step at a time.
Yeah.
Literally one brick at a time. If you start in small pieces, it really does make it a lot easier to do things if you just focus on like the next step ahead. There was another quote that was about like your headlights. It's like if you're driving at nighttime, like you don't, if it's dark outside, you don't know where you're going, but you have headlights, and it's like it shows you, just the little bit ahead of you, and you have faith that you are gonna not hit something in front of you trust that you're gonna keep going forward. Just because you can only see the light, you don't stop because you're like, this is all I can see. You're like, but it's like you just deal with this little bit that's ahead of you, and then it just the whole time you just keep slowly riding it, and then you can go to the top like that.
Yeah, one step at a time. I mean, I'll use the gym as an analogy. For myself, this works really well when I use it as an analogy, because the first time you go to the gym, you're not going to have a six-pack. You're not going to be squatting 450 pounds. You're not going to be doing 30 pull-ups. It's just not going to happen. That takes time. It takes workout after consistent workout, after eating the right things, like getting enough rest, and doing that repeatedly over and over again. So like, and you can't be focused on, like, it's good to have that goal, but that workout is, you're just focused on that one workout. There's a bigger picture in mind, but you're not worried about that bigger picture in that moment of you being there working out. You're just like, I know I'm going to get there by doing this, so I'm just going to do it. And that one step, before you know it, you're better than you were a week or two ago. Then a month goes by, you're better than you were a month ago. 2 months go by, you're better. 3 months go by, you're better. 4 months go by, you're where you want to be. And you're like, holy shit, I didn't miss any workouts. I ate everything I was supposed to eat, and I hit my goal. And then if there are other problems, you're never going to live a life without some sort of obstacle or challenge. So, like, then other problems or I wouldn't even want to label them as problems. I'm going to label them as obstacles, are going to arise, and you got to figure that out. But it's like, there's always going to be, no matter what stage of life you're in or what season you're in, and whatever your plans or goals or where you're at in life, there's always going to be some sort of challenges that arise that are ultimately there to help you better yourself and, like, rise through it. that leads me to something that I wanted to ask you, because I think this is an interesting concept, and I've thought about it a lot, and I don't necessarily. It's hard for me to see this in myself. I don't want to say it's distrue because it could be like a case for me, but I really don't think that I have a fear of success. I've heard other people discuss it, and they say they're not really afraid of failing. They're more afraid of succeeding. Like what happens when I'll use like your as an example. You get the ultra successful YouTube channel. You have your YouTube plaques. You're making or you're earning a great living from just making consistent YouTube videos, and you reach the goal. Like people have that fear of success. I mean, now talking about it, I think of maybe my fear lies in not getting it, but it's maintaining it. Like I could believe in myself enough to a point where I could get where I want or what I want, but it's the ability to the longevity of continually to achieve that. I think that might be where my fear in success lies, not the initial like achievement of it. I think that would be amazing and great. It would just be being able to sustain that success for as long as I need, like would need it to be successful. So like I don't know what your thoughts are on like the fears of success.
Yeah, I've always thought that was a strange statement, but I have used it for sure, but kind of not even really necessarily probably in the right context, to be honest, because I agree with you. I think that my thing, and this is more of I've told you this story, obviously, is personal to me, and I'm not sure if this has, affected my adult successes, but I wouldn't doubt it if it was. But when I was a teenager, my parents went through, this was right before the big drop or whatever in
The Great Recession.
And we were doing wonderful. Like we had, what I consider to be a mansion. Like I loved our house. We had, my parents built this huge house. They were both doing really well financially, and the best that they've ever done since I was a kid, and probably since they have ever done. And so we were like getting all these things, and then that happened, and everything went away. And I'm not saying like, oh, we were victims or anything, because obviously I still do believe that everything is attraction based and that we create our own reality. So I believe that they just, whatever happened to us, they played an equal part to life in those things. But as a teenager and seeing my parents like lose our house, like people came to our house to get my car. Like they almost repoed my car. They were going to take everything. They started, I forget the word, but when they are like taking out of your paychecks, I can't remember the word, but it was pretty gnarly. And so to see my parents go through that, it was devastating. And like the lost businesses, both of them, like it was heartbreaking, and it was just a lot for me. And so, and not that I was using that as an excuse as I got older. I was like, oh, I understand that I'm different from them. Like their life is their life and my life is my life. But I can't say that underlying that there isn't some fear in there, that I will, seeing the people that I love most being so happy and feeling, feeling so successful, and then having those things happen. It's like, and obviously there was, a lot of talk about it. So it was like, oh, the victim mentality, kind of like, basically like, oh, if you have it all, they're going to take it all, kind of thing. And so that was a big fear of mine, and probably subconsciously still is. I'm trying to work through that, and I do. My higher self believes that, if I had the successes that I wanted, that I would have the tools to be able to keep them. I don't think I would if I was still drinking and doing drugs, but I'm working hard to maintain of a more consistent me. And so I trust myself more now than I ever have. We also had kind of a conversation about this before, but even with the YouTube thing, I trust myself that I will be more consistent with it. I've always been kind of a flaky person because I was always, drinking and doing drugs and stuff. And so it was like, I had every intention to show up, but then I wouldn't. And so, and that in myself created a lot of confidence loss, because when you don't show up for yourself and you don't do the things that you say that you're going to do, then you start to get, you don't trust yourself. And so,
yeah, that's a big thing, is showing up for yourself and making promises to yourself and keeping them, and then making promises to other people and keeping those promises. And that is something that I think that I've gone through highs and lows with. I still would say generally when I make a bond with another person, or I give somebody my word, I am very good about keeping that. Was more or less the word, like what I'll tell myself I'm going to do, and me doing it, because I could tell myself I want to do something or I need to do something, and I don't necessarily do it. Or if I do it, I'm going to do it not even on the time frame that I told myself that I should do it on. I'm going to be like, all right, you need to make this podcast Saturday afternoon, and I'm going to do it. Yeah, sure, I'm going to do it, but it's going to be Sunday night when I'm going to do it. Like, I'm glad I did it, and I did ultimately keep my word to myself. But I know you famously even tell me, oh, stuff runs on Jordan time, which is like, I do stuff when I want to do it. My mother always told me the same thing. Like, I do things on my own time. And I'll even do that to myself, though, where I do stuff on my own time with myself. And like, talking about this is like, I'm coming to a realization of that, is I'll set a deadline or expectation upon myself when I'm going to do something, and I don't necessarily even get it done when I tell myself I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it when I probably either have to or really feel a bigger urge to do it, or a push to do it. But like, and I'm trying to work on that. I think that will help bring in more success and abundance, which be a little bit more proactive. But once again, it's not that I'm not proactive about stuff or not on top of doing stuff, because I think I still do fairly decent, but I hold myself to higher standards and see where I can improve. So it's just a matter of like recognizing that and then improving. But I'm not sure what any more thoughts that you have to share on it.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I mean, I don't know if you wanted to tie this up soon, but I have a couple of I had two things, or suggestions, I guess I would say, for trying to help others overcoming self-doubt that I from personal experience have used. And I was just going to ask you if you had two suggestions for them.
You give your suggestions first. I'm going to think on that.
Okay.
Because I didn't have any suggestions. I figured through my personal experiences and me relaying where I was at, maybe that would spark people's creative juices, and they'd have their own thoughts that expounded from my thoughts. But I will try to come up with two as you give your two.
Okay. And mine are, I don't want to say cheesy, but I can just say from personal experience that they've helped me. And like Jordan said, I'm obviously not cured. I'm not saying that I don't have any self-doubt or anything like that, because I obviously do. But things that have helped keep that a little bit more at bay is affirmations, which some people can call bullshit and be like, that's woo-woo, whatever. But from personal experience, in the past, I was very, very much one of those people that would tell myself that I hated myself and all of the nasty things, and openly. Like, I had no problem telling you that I hated myself, telling you that I was a loser, telling you that I was all these things, like negative, nasty things. And today, the person that I am, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I hear anyone say anything bad about themselves, I'm like, stop. Like, the words you say to yourself are so powerful, and the words that you say after I am are so powerful. So be careful about what you're saying. And so if you're telling yourself, that you're stupid, or that you are lazy, or that you are, to this or to that, like, your body and your subconscious is taking that in, and you have to respond to that and make that statement correct. And so you will literally start doing things that make you correct. So if you say I'm stupid, you're going to start doing things that show you that you're stupid. And so you're going to keep saying that. And so try to stop those negative self talks at all costs. Like, even, I mean, you're obviously still going to do them. I still do them, but catch yourself. Like, really try to catch yourself and start replacing them with positive things. And I'm telling you, if you are somebody that tells yourself these nasty things all the time, it feels so uncomfortable and feels so stupid and feels so silly and feels so goofy looking in the mirror or like reading out loud, like, I am beautiful, I am smart. Like, it is so uncomfortable, but just keep doing it. Literally, like, repeat it over and over and over and over and over and over until you genuinely believe it, because you will. Like, today, the person that I am is so unbelievably opposite from the person that I have been in the past. And all of the things that I repeat to myself on the daily is all the things that I want to be, whether I think them or not. Like, I'm not the most organized person in the world, but like, I literally say that to myself all the time. I'm like, I am organized, I am organized, I'm organized. And it is helping. Like, it does make me get better at the things that I want to be. And it starts making me act in alignment with that. Like, me saying, I'm always on time. I'm always on time. Like, you literally start doing that because you can't lie to yourself. So it's like you're telling yourself these things, and so you start doing them. So affirmations are ginormous. So if you're telling yourself, like, don't say that you can't do something. Like, say, I'm excited to do this. I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to learn. Like, I don't necessarily know exactly how this is going to turn out, but we're going to find out. Like, I'm willing to take that chance, and I'm willing to take that risk and see how it's going to go. And if it doesn't go perfect the first time, then I got to see where I need to fix and do it better. But don't just be like, I can't do this, or like, I'm not good enough to do this. Like, we hear that enough from other people. And just be your own friend. Like, you would never just tell, like, one of your best friends, like, you're not good enough to do that. Like, literally start talking to yourself like you're talking to a friend. And so that's number one. Sorry, I talked about that for a long time, but I'm so serious. I know it sounds silly, but it works. And two, it kind of ties in with that, but if you see the person that you want to be, like, visualize that person and start acting like that. Like, if you really admire people and you really want to be somebody that is on time all the time, like, start acting like that. Be on time all the time, and you will be that person. Like, if you want to be someone that looks professional and dresses nice.
I wanted to add something to that too. Potentially, if you're visualizing that person, start talking to that person too, and ask them what they took to get there, what they're doing to get there. But I just wanted to add that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I love that. But you really have to, visualizing too, that's huge. But visualize yourself as that person, and try to figure out what they're doing to have those things that you want, and act like that. Like, it might, because if you look at yourself, this was in a book actually, but it was like, look at yourself, if you want to be, I think it used rich as an example, but it was like, do you want to be a rich person, or and then it was like, look in the mirror, and do you visualize yourself as the rich you that you want to be? And if that doesn't match, like, you need to fix something. Because if you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, yeah, no, like, that's not, then, like, you need to start dressing, talking, acting, doing the things that you would visualize your, like, highest self being and doing. Like, does your highest self, like, read books all the time? Like, start doing that. Like, if your house is messy and you're, not doing the things that you want to do, then figure out who it is that you want to be and just start imitating that person. And not too long, you're going to end up being them. So those are my two that I highly suggest doing that.
Absolutely. Those definitely really work, and I agree with them, and that's something that I've implemented in the past, and they have helped me. And, like, once again, it's something you need to do consistently. You can't just do it once and expect to get results. This is like a daily practice type of thing. And that kind of ties into I think I might have come up with more than two. But one of them is meditation. And the reason why I say meditation, specifically like mindfulness meditation, is for the fact of doing things step by step, just one foot in front of the other. Mindfulness meditation really helps with that, where you're really just focused in the moment, the here and now, and what you're doing. And even though you got a bigger, broader picture of what a goal you're trying to accomplish, you're still just in that moment thinking about the one thing that you have to do, and then you're not overwhelmed by the whole thing that you got going on, so you don't even start it. And the next thing that I wanted to bring out was just do it. Just fucking do it. I mean, that's ultimately what it seems like Nike did, because that's been their slogan since I could remember.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah. Just do it. And they've been around forever. They're worth multiple billions and billions of dollars at this point. They just did it. So just do it. And then my third one, I'm adding a third one for value, which kind of ties everything in, is the people you associate with. Don't allow anybody else to put their doubts on your dreams or your ideas.
Yes.
Do not let anybody else, no matter what they say, who they are, they're your best friend, they're your mother, they're your wife, they're your husband. Do not let them put your doubts on your dreams. And I mean that in the most genuine, realistic way. If your dream is to do something ridiculous, like you want to drive to Las Vegas at 150 miles an hour the entire way on a motorcycle on roads and try not to get caught by the cops, then that's probably advisable to listen to your friend on that one. But if it's you want to start a business, you want to start a YouTube channel, you want to start a clothing line, you want to do whatever it is that you feel allows you to express yourself more authentically, more genuinely, and be a truer version of yourself, and help others in the process, and somebody tells you that's a bad idea, fuck them. Do it anyway, explore it, try it, just do the damn thing. Just do it.
Mm-hmm. Just do it.
But that being said, I wanted to thank Allison. Do you have any concluding words?
No, I don't think so. I'm so happy that we talked about this topic. It is such perfect timing, and the fact that we've done a couple of these, and like I'm starting to even feel more comfortable doing them, and we've been coming up with more and more ideas for them, and it also helps me, come up with ideas for my YouTube channel. Sorry, I keep talking about that, but I'm super excited about it, and you guys should go check it out. And you can actually do handles on YouTube now, so it's at the Alison Avery. But yeah, I just want to thank you again for having me. I'm super excited for all of the conversations we have yet to come, but I really hope that you guys got some value out of this. And if you've listened this far, thank you so very much for giving us your time, because we really aren't just doing this for nothing. We really want to, not change people's minds, but like open your mind and like change people's perspectives, or like give them a little bit of insight on things, because we have done a lot of personal growth and on that journey of just trying to learn ourselves and learning about what doesn't work. And obviously I'm not a pro at any of this, but I'm doing my best, and I just want to help people as much as I can along the way. So I just appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate you, Jordan, so very much, and I'm glad that we're doing this.
Yeah, I'm really glad we're doing this too, and I wanted to thank all you guys. And this particular podcast in itself, talking about the subject with you, recording it, thinking into it, has been a discovery process for me. Talking about it, like, this is something I'm going to go back and I'm personally going to listen to, because not only am I helping other people through it, but this is going to like help me potentially rework some of my own sticking points.
Same.
So I just wanted to thank all of you guys for tuning in and being supportive and bearing with me as we figure out the consistency thing and are overcoming our self-doubt. And I hope all you guys are overcoming your self-doubt and you're learning and growing and enjoying this as much as we are enjoying making this for you. And I'm going to leave it with this. You got to jump in to swim. and we're out.